So I'll switch this off. Let's make a new layer and let's use this brush to make more brushes. So I'm going to dab out kind of like another silhouette, and you can see how much variation I already have, how much interest and texture I'm already getting just from this one brush that I've made from that default round brush. So what I'm thinking about now is I want to make a shape that kind of has more like a square silhouette to it. So I'll hit F9 with that action I set up, and now we've already got our second shape. So in brush mode, I'll select that new one. Let's hide this and make a new layer. We can edit that again. So I'm going to do a lot of the same steps now. So I kind of like that as a base. I'm going to save it for now. But how can we make this a little bit more visually interesting? Well, one thing that's nice to have in brushes that gives them a bit more texture is to add a little bit more randomness and breakup to the stroke. So a really nice way to do that is ticking on dual brush. Now, your secondary brush selection will look different to mine, depending on what brushes you have. And for whatever reason, it doesn't add the new brushes right down the bottom. So you'll want to search for the brush you made. So I can see mine's here. So with that dual brush now, it's going to scatter that brush inside the bounds of the brush I created. So if I up the spacing, that'll be more obvious. You can see how it's dabbing that at various angles. So if I turn transfer off for a second, you can see it's kind of influencing. If I turn it on and I'm holding this lightly, if I press firmly, you won't see it. But as long as I press like somewhat lightly, you can see it. So what I'm going to do in transfer is I'm just going to drag up the minimum pressure on those two. So I've still got transfer on, but with both of these on 95, it's just going to increase that contrast. So now what I can do is I can bring the size down, I can decrease the spacing, I can scatter it, I can increase the count. So now it's going to be scattering in that brush inside the silhouette of whatever stroke I make. And this will really quickly just add sort of a little bit of randomness. It's almost like I've got a roller with paint on it that's kind of unevenly distributed. And I might bring the transfer down a little bit. That's just going to add that sort of faded edges on the strokes. So pretty fun to just use a little bit of randomness and thinking about shapes to come up with some more interesting brushes.